So my name is Paulette Mpouma. I'm originally from Cameroon, and I came in this country, and I created a family with my husband, and because of the the way I saw the way they were teaching Africa at school, I was not very happy with that. So I start just doing some game with my children, and based on that, I create the Africa memory game.
Hello and welcome to Obehi Podcast. I'm your host, Obehi A14, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started into this episode.
That was a way for me, like a point of reference for my children to learn about Africa. And while playing, they start learning, and they start their curiosity, help them to learn more. They love it. And we decide, hey, why we cannot bring this game to our friend, to the diaspora, to everyone who wants to learn about Africa. So it's the way that I became kind of game inventor and create more games on Africa.
All right, now let's take some time to learn a little bit about you. As you already understand, because you participated in one of the events that I organized about storytelling. That is where we met, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we are really into storytelling here. So help me understand a bit about you, your early childhood. You grew up in Cameroon, right?
Yes, sir.
Take us to those days.
Okay, so I grew up in Cameroon with the love of, African kids cannot express more how childhood is in Africa, because people have the image of Africa as poverty and everything. But as children, we don't see all of that. I remember growing up with hand games, feet games, with the rope, you know how to dance, the music and all of that. And also soccer, because we are in Cameroon, we love soccer, like everybody know we love soccer. So when we arrive in Europe or we arrive in America, is when you discover the poor image they have on Africa. And you are kind of shocked. You say, hey, this is not the Africa I know. This is not the one, the one with your mom, with the smell of the food, with the dance, with the last. There's so many things that are missing in the transmission of what is Africa. So I say my children will miss it if I don't tell the story the right way. So I grew up there, and then I did my study, and I create my family in America, and I found that my children will not have the same heart for Africa if I don't get involved. So, and it started with my daughter, who came once and asked me if I have AIDS when I was a child, and I asked her why. She said when she was at school at Black History Month, they showed them video with children of Africa who have AIDS. And I was so shocked. I said, why did we show that to a child? Okay, let me see what you have at school as material for school. And I look around, my son say, no, we don't have really anything about Africa. We don't even have a map of Africa in school. So the only one who has something was this 7th grade child who was studying one country on Africa. And every year per county, they will choose one country. They will choose like Ghana, or they will choose Ethiopia, or perhaps South Africa, one country only to represent all 54 countries. So I said, this is not normal. You need to learn more. You cannot identify Africa like one country. You cannot do that. And we start creating from scratch question, answer. And when you don't know, you pay something, just like an incentive. And we build the Africa memory game that way. I say, hey, how about putting this together? and making it exactly like a game anyone would like to see, you know. So as family are playing, they are learning about each other. And then I found that actually is helping us also African, because Nigeria is the neighbor of Cameroon, but how many people know exactly what is the capital of Nigeria? There's a lot of Africans who don't know. A lot of them, you ask them, they will tell you Lagos. They will tell you, you understand. Some don't know that Abuja is one of the main cities. Some don't know Ibadan. Some don't know. So it's helping also African to learn about each other. And Nigeria, Cameroon, they are even close. Perhaps they may know. But how about people from Cameroon learning about Botswana? How about you in Botswana learning about Egypt? So I say this is a game that can bring people together and unite them through knowledge. And then I saw also, how about the diaspora? How the diaspora will get there? Because the diaspora is so willing to learn. They are hungry. The Caribbean and all of these, they are hungry. But if we are learning about the history, they are learning about our history. How about us also learning about their history, the game inventor in the Caribbean or the American? So I did also a Pan-African version of the African memory game, where children from the both side or family from the both side can learn about each other main facts. So
Thank you so much for that. There is a lot on the plate there that we're going to explore just now. But first, you did make mention of the games that you used to participate in Africa. You see, there is a lot of. It looked like a Pandora open for me now, and I don't even know where I'm going to start first. You see, when I go to Italy in 2004, at a point I sort of be like a kind of a rebel in like what you're saying, like I would try to understand what is the story of other people like me in Italy, because I met a lot of people in Italy, that are of African descent, African immigrant, as people would prefer to call us. Then I was asking, what is their story? I really didn't find anything I could hold on to. Of course, I could go to maybe the missionary, European missionary or Italian missionary who go to Africa, who talk about Africa. That is not lacking at all in my city where I live or in Italy as a whole. But I look at this image, the representation that they still have most of them today. When you go to a trade fair all across Italy, you still have many of these missionaries who are speaking for Africa. The image, the representation, the choreography that they have do not represent us. So I couldn't find myself in it. It's more like the NGO and the game that they have, I guess, that they have going on in Africa, which they say they are speaking for African people.
Exactly.
So I didn't see myself in that story. So from then I wrote my first book here in Italy, which I titled Still Owing Me Goodbye. Talking about just a normal life. I didn't want to do anything extraordinary. I just want to say this is how I grew up in Africa. Me and other children, how we used to play, how we used to have fun. I didn't say we live in a glass house, but at least in that story, you can see the human being in it. It's not like we didn't need anybody to give us a source of livelihood. The story was simply the people in relationship to their natural environment.
Exactly.
Agriculture, they have festival, we go to school, we have fun. Of course, there are poverty. Yes, nobody is denying that. But you dare not take away our humanity. It is absolutely important. And there also, I make mention of different games that we used to get involved in. Because that is how we manage to understand who we are now, our culture and the rest of it. Because I think life is a web of experience. All right. Now, tell me a bit about that. What kind of game were you playing in Africa? We are coming to your game just now, but first of all, we are still in Africa. The game you were playing while in Cameroon. Tell me everything you want to tell me about that.
Yes, we and what is good, Obehi, is that when I arrived in Europe, I used those games. I will tell you after, but let me go back to the game. So when we were at school, before entering the class or after at the recess, what we do is we have a lot of game, like the hand game. And this one, I think you find it in Tanzania, you find it in Cameroon, in Nigeria, and everything. We have a game called, we say, Amina, Amina, Mina Tele, Mi Ba, Ayesi Ba. Say now, I think many of us know those games. They are like childhood game. And when you go across Africa, you find the same game. So when people were migrating, they will still use the same game. It's a hand game where we touch and everything, and it has a song, it has a melody, and we see who's the fastest after. We have a lot of game where we hold hand and people are running around us, and at the end of the song, we hold you in the middle and we ask you a question, and you choose where you want to go and you go behind the person. And after, at the end, we do like a tug of war. So we have another game where we use the hand, we use the feet. We use the hand, we use the feet, and we will play, and we do, we have to have a matching pair. If we open the feet at the same time, or you close, is a remark point like that. So all of those, what they will create is like, I don't know, I think that if we go and start analyzing them, they create that bond between us children, and they help us to develop like, I don't know, communication, I don't know, joy, I don't know. All of these were part of us. And why I say it has an impact, let me tell you an experience I have. When I arrived in Europe, and I was a student, law student as well, I couldn't find a job. They were not giving job to students, let's say that. We couldn't find. So I decided to create this association called African Friendship. And we were using the game. I decided that I will use the game to play with the children, with European children. I will use African game to play with European children. We had so much success, Obehi, I will tell you that. One day, they brought us the most rebellious children in the city. There was a city, I remember, called Malakoff, where they have children. And when they bring you the children, the counselor who are bringing you the children, they tell you, oh, the parents are on drugs, the parents are on alcohol. It's just a waste of funding because these children don't obey nobody. They don't listen to nobody. So they really, and it was like, okay, let's give these children to this African lady. So we'll see what she will do with them, because they are like the one nobody wants. And they left us with the children, and they left the place. When they came back 1 hour after, the children were sitting around us and they were listening. We were doing storytelling, telling them different story, like we have story with the lion and the different story with tortoise and all of these. And we use expression, we use African game, we use drum. Sometimes we put them in our story. They didn't want to leave the place. They were all amazed by everything we were telling them. And I was telling them, the counselor came back and said, what did you do? We said, we just treat them. They are children. We tell them the story as African. We just tell them the story as it is. We don't try to entertain them. We are telling them the story, and they are interested by what we are doing. They are, how could I say, they were amazed by the whole thing, and they start playing like children. They start playing like children. I say, because you come with stereotype. You think, okay, his parent is a drunkard, he will never be interested. No, he's a child before being the child of a drunkard. So it's a little bit to tell you that the Africa, some people are looking with the wrong eyes, is actually the Africa we need to keep, that humanity we have, that love we have, and without looking at the material first, is what we need to keep, because it's very important, and it's less and less.
Thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate that. Before we get into the game that you are inventing and how you are using it as for social engagement in the United States today. When you look back to Cameroon, because right now you're in the United States, you're not in Cameroon.
No.
Do you think people are still playing those games you used to play when you were a child, or which all of us play when we were children back then in Africa? I'm not even talking of 200 years ago, only a few years ago. What do you think about that? Do you think they are still playing those games today?
I think they still play because when they have like the youth anniversary, we have an anniversary of the youth. Some school come and display some of those games. So I think they still play those games. And I brought that game also the last time because I do presentation in school also. Apart from the game, I do presentation of Africa in some schools, school in DC, in Maryland, in different school. And I go sometimes with my embassy just to present. And what I do with those schools when they come or to the museum or to the embassy, I use the same game. I took the whole classroom the last time. They were like, I think, 7th grade or something like that. And I taught them the Amina game. And they were there, Amina, all of them, trust me. What the teacher told me is, because they have to take a bus to go back at school, they played the game all the way to the school. And they brought the game to the school and start teaching the other class how to play that game of Amina. Because we have to understand with the society here so sophisticated. Perhaps they have cell phone and they are not interested in anything or interacting with people. But when you put them back in an environment where they can touch each other and talk without having anything that is, just you bring them back to, I cannot say childhood because you don't want them to be babies, no, but you bring them back to natural way of expression. They get it and they love it. The teacher sent us email to say how they were transmitting what we have taught them to the other children in the school.
That is actually the power of storytelling. The other day when I was talking about, that was another event, because we do audio event 2 weeks. Of course, we are thinking of doing it every week now because we find it to be very useful, very important, where different people connect from different parts of the world. Of course, if you are listening to us, you have not yet participated in our LinkedIn audio event, we invite you to join us from time to time. We do it every 2 weeks, but now we are going to probably be doing it every week because we find it to be very helpful for us, particularly for the African diaspora who are looking for a way to connect with other African diaspora, because that is our intention here. We believe that everyone have a story to tell. So if you believe that you have a story to tell or you want to listen to the story of other people, come around. Okay. We love you. We believe that we have something to share. We believe in that you have a story to share and we want to listen to your story too. You see, the reason that story works is that it connects to us in a way that nothing else can touch us, because it touches into our very emotion, our very mechanism, how we function as entity, as human being. So it is more profound than we can ever study in school. Now, how did you decide to put this work together, this your game? How did you decide to put them together so that they can become something to offer to schools, to institutions, to places, so that people can have value for it? Tell me about how you decide to organize it, package it, and the rest of it. That is important for me.
Yeah, I think that it started around the table in my own house with my children. I have 4 children, and I was seeing how the game was impacting them. The player, like the game, it takes like 2 to 4 people to play. But when we were playing, we were 4. My daughter, who was at least, she was like, at that time, she was like 5 years old. She usually not know like the meaning of the question and everything, but she was attracted by the color of the flag and everything. I had also a game with flag. And I found that when we are playing, actually she was retaining most of the flag. This is Cameroon, this is Senegal, this is Nigeria, I said, wow. So the earlier you start, the better it is for the children to retain things about Africa. So don't think that when they will be old, they will get into the books themselves. No. So we start at home from scratch. I will color the paper, I will do things and everything. I ask them questions, they answer and everything. And I tell them, what do you think about this? Oh, is it too difficult as a question, or you think it's about? So I build everything with them. I chose the color with them. I chose the way we did the game trial at home. And then we say, okay, we need it in such a way that it can be commercialized. So at least we can invest in it and then see how we can build something bigger than that. And then we hire someone, a specialist, to do that, like a designer and all of this. But everything was built at home. Everything we want, we just transmit the idea to the specialist, and he did like the package we like, he did the design we like and everything. But we start at home. So it's exactly what we want that we gave to him for him to create. He didn't have to add any idea or anything. He just has to build what my children and I were thinking we will put together for the world to know. And we knew also that this one will help not only our own family, but it will help the older family. And is what you are doing about storytelling. I love it. Why? Because we are Diaspora. When I do event, I have another event I will talk to you about called Teaching Africa Day. We in the Diaspora, we are hungry. We are hungry to know about the other Black people. We are hungry to know each other. We are hungry to build something together. You understand? And storytelling is the best way to do the bridge, because when I know your story, I know you better. Everything you don't know, you're afraid of it. And why being afraid of it? So you create all kind of barrier for the person not to come closer to you. But when you tell me your story, I get closer to you. And I give an example, like I remember how Africa was represented before Nollywood. You will tell me, okay, it's another expression. But trust me, Nollywood changed a lot the way we see Nigeria and Africa, because I will meet people who are American, who are buying, at that time we were buying tapes before Netflix and all of this. We buy tapes. So a movie were coming every Friday, and I will go and buy the movie. I will meet in the store African American, I will meet Caribbean, I will meet, and we are all in the store trying to get the next one. And one will tell you, oh, I watched it. This is not really the end. I didn't like it and everything. And this is the diaspora discussing in the store. And we are all buying Nigerian movie. Why? We can find ourselves in those people. You can imagine, okay, she's perhaps from a poor village, but you imagine also what happened in your village. But it's the same. So we are the same everywhere we are. We have the same story everywhere. So telling the story helps us to come closer to each other. And then after that, we have a multiplication of festival, African festival, Pan-African festival, where actually you find all of the diaspora. Why? Because they're so true movie that we are alike. We have the same story. So we come and find ourselves listening to the same dance, to the same music, and we became closer and closer. But it starts with Nigerian movie.
Thank you for that. That is what story does for us. Story humanizes us. It makes us human. Stories are powerful in that it gives us identity. It gives us name. It builds us. It makes us who we are.
Exactly.
Now, apart from the fact that story actually gives us also the vision, the dream, but it also managed to help us to be able to find our place in the world. And story also help us to be alive. I remember in one of the books in the series, the 5-book series on storytelling that I just finished, I was saying that how could our ancestors in Africa, many thousands of years ago, have been able to survive. They managed to survive because of the story that they know, because of the information that they know, in that they were cohabiting this small space in the world with some of the most dangerous animals in the world. How could they manage to survive? Because they know where the danger is to avoid. Not only that, they also know where the food is to go. Because you need to eat. At this time, there was no agriculture. Agriculture has not yet been invented this time. But you still need to eat. Because human beings eat from the fruit of the earth. And that fruit of the earth is basically a cycle. You know, in economics, when you are growing up, that is what they call food web and food chain and food web. That what you eat have a way of going back and turning back again. But what I'm actually saying there is that before agriculture was invented, you needed to know where the food is so that you can eat.
Exactly.
And you needed to know what to avoid, because you can't eat everything now. How do you know what to eat? All these are stories. You see, so storytelling, I think, is very powerful. It is something that we should all be learning about, because it helps us to know who we are, and it humanizes who we are. And in the time of war too, it helps us to define what we need to fight for and what we need to die for. And even beyond that, it also gives us where we need to go when we die.
What you are saying is true. What you are saying definitely true. That is not only humanize us, it bring us closer. It help us know our history, because even if you are, I remember once when you are talking, I went to Chicago, okay, and I brought 400 games in Chicago, 400. So it was like a pyramid. It was huge, and on that time, I remember why I'm telling this story. I don't even know. But on that time, by the end of the festival, it was an African festival on 5 days. On that time, I went on the radio, exactly like you. Someone interviewed me in the morning, and he asked me, why you bring so many games? Why you did even this game now? And I look at him just simply, and I say, because I think it's a time the Black people come together. He looked at me. He said, why you can say something like that? I said, hey, this is a time, I feel it's a time that through, I use perhaps my game, you use storytelling, or we use different means, but this is the time for the Black race to come together, because we have been disseminated everywhere. And she said, okay, can you tell me why? And I tried to tell her why I create my game. Actually, I create my game like a tool to do a bridge, but at the same time, to bring people together through knowledge. Because if I know what you know, and you know what Paulette know, hey, we have something in common. We have knowledge, okay? So I say, this is why. And what happened in that festival, Obehi, I didn't know the power of radio. Before the end of that night, I've sold all of my game. I have grandma who came from, I don't know which part of Chicago. They bought like 10 games. The other one, just because I say this is the time that the Black race has to come together. And it was the same year where President Obama became president. And we didn't even have the result yet. But we have to understand that it's true means like storytelling. We are coming together. And you have been in my link, but I never click. Is the title of your the title you chose the last time. Yes, when I saw Diaspora, I saw storytelling. I say, hey, this is where I think I can hear something that is interesting for me. You understand? Because it's what we have tried to do since. We have tried to do, and we have tried to do that for the youth. We have some t-shirt called Teaching the Next Generation About Africa. And the event is called Teaching Africa Day, where we bring all kind of material, and we bring storyteller as well to talk about Africa. And that is the Africa we know. It's not the one on TV, it's not the one brought by medias and everything, it's the one we know. And we address that day the youth from all different parts. Some people travel even to come to our event, but it's just to tell them, hey, this is what we want to leave you guys. You have to understand that. The Africa we know, the love we have for everything is something we need to transmit to you. Because if we leave it to the media, if we leave it to the TV, they will not do such a great job. So
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm so proud of you. You brought about 400 games to Chicago. So tell me, how do you package this game in the sense of, is it like in a form of book? Is it like in a form of... explain
do you have Monopoly at home or Scrabble, or do you have trivia pursuit? It's not a book. It's a board game. You see? It's a board game. So it's a foldable. Inside you have the board that is folded in 4, and you can open the board like that. And on the board is the map of Africa. It's a 3D map. With underneath you have the country. So when you are in South Africa, you can see you're in South Africa. Then you cross. You enter, you can enter Mozambique, and then you go Tanzania, you go all around. So it's like a race of knowledge on the continent. You go through different countries, but everywhere you step, you have a question. You have a question like, what is the capital? What Ibadan, is it the largest city? Let's say largest city, or is it the most populous city in Nigeria? Of course, no, it's Lagos who's the most populous. So you have different questions like that. You have question of history, you have question of geography, you have question of culture, and you have also the main people we know. The main fact about personalities. You have I didn't know, I discovered the mother of Fela, Ramson Kuti, with the Abeokota and all of her political things. So I go in not only in things that will interest people, but I go in personality that people need to go after and look at the history, how they look at the life, at the story, you understand. I have also Caribbean, I have inventors, I have historian. Now also, what I do is I do the game in English and French, because Obehi, now you are talking only to the English-speaking people. But have you imagined that in Africa, you have 30 countries speaking French? So if you are learning the story, there's a big part of it that you are missing when you are not speaking French. There's a big part of Africa. So I try to mix things from the Francophone speaking Africa with the Anglophone speaking Africa.
Now, what is the reception of the people? What do you need to say about that? Like, when you expose the people to these stories, to these tools that you have created, because I really look at it as of course, you also use the word tool. When you expose people to this tool, what do they tell you? What do you get as a kind of a feedback?
They love it. There's even one museum curator who say, I dream about it, but I didn't know someone who really sit down and do it. Because a lot of people say it has so much work that is just amazing that you was able to have that concept. I say it took me time, but I think is what we need now is every time we need something, instead of complaining, let's try to see how we can create it. You understand? So is the concept that I have, and when I send it, because I sold it in America, I sold almost 10,000 pieces in America, but there's 2 or 3 people who bought some for Nigeria. I think for Nigeria, it's like around 250 I was able to sell. And in Congo, I have a company who bought like 300 for the employees, gift and things like that. And Senegal, same thing. Senegal, I went even ahead and I created a company in Senegal just to sell the game. And I think they love it. They love the fact that they can learn about other country, and they love the fact that is one thing that is focused on Africa. So I think is welcomed by the population, by the public.
All right, that is fine. There's another interesting part of it that I really want you to spend some time on just now, which is the entrepreneurial part of it. Because, like I've always said here, one thing is to know how to tell story. One thing, all of us actually are storyteller, whether we know it or not.
Mm-hmm.
But to tell stories strategically, not all of us know how to do that. Now, you know this game. You are not the only person that know this game, but you are leveraging it because you know how to leverage it. That really is a different. Tell me, how do you manage to learn that entrepreneurial aspect of it so that even though other people might know this same game, but yours is different because you can market it, people can see value in it, and then they can exchange their income for it. Tell me about that.
So what I can say is before he was just an hobby, but then it became a business. Okay. So you have to understand that you have first to give value to what you're saying. Like you have storytelling. You give value to what you are saying and you see the impact in the future. But now you have to be able to transform it to something that you can monetize. That means that you need to sit down and look at what can attract people to your product. What can attract? First, you have the box, you have the color, you have the expression, you have, how could I say, there's so much details you have to bring in a box in order for you to sell it. That is in marketing, okay? When you see a product out there and you want to, what can attract you? You have to work on all of those aspects. Of course, your heart is inside. Whatever you want to transmit is inside your story, inside the box here. But you have to work on the packaging in order for you to make it attractive. That you need to, if you have to take class, if you have to teach yourself, if you have to do some work. I have to learn like things like the design, Adobe Photoshop or Adobe. I have to learn it by myself. I have to go and try to learn it just in order for me to make sure that every time I'm hiring someone to do that, it will not cost me too much money. So I need to do a part of it. And then I have to check. I want my game to be in competition with Monopoly, with Scrabble, with the other game. So how will I study the price of my game? I learn on that too. I learn also, how do I approach the store to distribute my game? Which store can distribute my game? Can anyone be addressed? I have to learn on that too. Now I chose a way also is working with parents, because a lot of parents are looking for material to sell, to study for the children. Homeschooler and everything are looking for material. What is the best thing then to have the parent doing that for you? Distribute your game. A parent will tell, hey, I've learned so much with this game. I've played with my children, but now they are showing the other family. If you play the African memory game with your children, they will learn. They will learn about their identity. They will learn about where they are coming from. They will learn about Africa. So parents start doing that for me through also telling the story. Oh, the lady who has created that, she created that for her children, and she tells the story behind. People are interested because it's human. It's human. They can relate to that. So that is a little, I hope I answered.
So, where do you see the future of this game that you have created? I mean, as people are looking into the future, where do you see it going?
What I see is a lot of people are asking me for the application, but I told them that it's not bad to have an application, but I don't want the application to kill actually the actual game, because it's a family game. You come together as a family and you learn, you answer the question as a family, and you are learning also. Is like this time we have where the parent usually tell a story and we answer back. Is kind of, it's a bond. You cannot have that much with a machine. So it's why I can see an application in the future. I can see an application like why not competition of knowledge? I'm here in the US. Obehi, you are there perhaps in Nigeria, and we are competing on our knowledge. Why not? And I see also many, this is just the whole Africa, but I can see also different sects to not only Africa, but let's study in deeper, like the Caribbean. Why not? Let's study deeper, like, I don't know, just the main personalities we have in the Black history, all of them together. Let's study only. So there's so many diverse way we can use to add to this game. And I have also one, perhaps it will be more interesting for you. There's a lady who gave me a book once, and she was the former minister of commerce of Liberia. What she did, Obehi, and I think you will love her book. She went throughout Africa and asked different young people, how do you see Africa of tomorrow? What did you do? And how do you see Africa of tomorrow? And her book is called Emergent Leadership of Africa. Her name is a minister. She's a former minister, Olubanke King of Liberia. Okay. So when she discovered my game, she came to me and she said, oh, I love your game and everything. But tell me, what can you do with something like my book? So I took the book and I read. It's more than 88 different young people from Mozambique, Algeria, from Nigeria, from Zimbabwe, from anywhere in Africa that are telling their own story. Some were telling story like, just an example. He studied all of the good aspects of brown rice. He want to cultivate brown rice when he come back. But he arrived, he found out that brown rice costs more than white rice. Brown rice, you have less diabetes like with brown rice than white rice. But people love white rice because it's cheaper. So what he need to do? He does not know. So what he will do is he will turn around and ask the diaspora. That was the mechanism I found in the game. You tell your story, but then the question, the challenge you encounter, you turn around and you ask the diaspora, what will you do? And the answer comes from the diaspora now. The answer comes from the player. So I create a game based on her book where we are telling the story of these many people. And for the question that he asks, we turn around and we ask the diaspora, what will you do if you was at his place? You see. And that game is already on the market. We did the game in 2017. But it's a great game to tell different people's story. And we categorize them in different things. We categorize in good governance, we categorize in economy, and we categorize in health, problem of health. With just an example. In Liberia, they found that a lot of people, because of the war, they have a lot of people who were suffering mentally. You know, in Africa, we don't consider that much what is depression or post-war stress or things like that. We consider no, we balance it on the religious side, you understand. But you have people who are suffering really from PTSD, post-trauma. You have real people. And these people are given sometimes responsibility in the country. So how do you fix the problem? How do you fix a problem of a child soldier who's reintegrated but put in a position where he was not completely healed? So all of this is like through a basic game where people are telling the story. But now, as diaspora, we need to bring the answer.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. That is powerful. We really will have time to be able to explore that. So, what will be your final take here to conclude this conversation? It really have been very interesting and eye-opening. I believe that
Okay.
the audience, people that are listening to us, they are getting value from it. Conclude it your
Okay.
own way.
No, I believe, like I say, I can give the same answer I gave the last time in the 30 minutes to close, that we are in the time where we need to make available whatever resource we have for the diaspora. Storytelling is one. You have to bring your own story or your own tools in order to change the way our story is told. So you need to do that effort. Don't just stay and say, okay, perhaps me too, I have a problem of funding or anything, but I use whatever I have in my disposition now in order to gather the people who can change the story, who can make our youth also interest, because we have a big problem is our youth is confronted to the civilization, Occidental civilization, Western civilization, and they are eating up everything that Western civilization is doing. If we are not careful, we may lose them to that. We have to find a way to transmit in order for them to love. I told people, when my son told me they didn't have a map of Africa, he didn't know about Africa. I remember on that time, he was already doing at school, he was doing stock market, learning to buy stocks and exchange stock. And they have a stock market club in the class. I just imagine if that child has 1 million, with what he know about Africa, he will never invest even 1 cent in Africa. Because in his mind, Africa is poor. Africa is about charity only. I say, no, we need to change the mindset. We need to change that stereotype in order for us to harvest that youth. If not, we are losing them.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. This is really very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for inviting me.
If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewanfo. Thank you so much for listening and talk to you in the next episode.